All right, guys. Well, the map is going to be Atlantis Spaceship, spawning over here in the top position as the red Protoss. So it looks like they're switching up colors on us. Alternate games here, guys. From the team Prime, we have Creator. His opponent spawning as the blue Terran in the bottom left-hand side position. From the team SCV Life, excellent army positioning and beautiful engagement to end game number 2, tying the series up to 1-1. Will he be able to take a lead in the series for the first time today? It's going to be Polt.
Well, Creator has already done 2 interesting things. One, clearly he's shown that they need to wrest control of the color red, and that is going to determine the outcome of this entire set, clearly. And 2, what he's done is he's picked the largest map we have of the map. We're going to follow this pro for a little while as he takes a merry journey across the map and see exactly how long it takes to get from natural to natural. Now, at this point, you'd already be there on Antigua. Let's keep going a little bit. Wait a little bit longer. Wait a little bit longer. Okay, now you'd be at your opponent's natural if you were on Entombed Valley, a gigantic map. There's Tal'Dorei and Malter. And we're still waiting, we're still waiting, we're still waiting. And now you're at your opponent's base. Now, if those of you who are familiar with Creator's style are probably like, well, that makes total sense. Because he's going to go up to a bunch of bases, he's going to sit on as many upgrades as possible, and he's going to try and limit the sheer amount of harassment that can be done just by picking this map.
The one thing I'm really excited about for a macro game on this particular map, although I don't think we'd see it early on just because it's a little bit too vulnerable, is that base in the middle of the map, one on either side, with that rich Vespene geyser, Kevin. Mm-hmm. And I actually recently cast a game, I believe it was a really high-level Zerg. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, possibly Snoot, but I don't think so, where it was in the finals. It was a best of 3, and they were tied up at 1-1, and Atlantis Spaceship was picked. And immediately going for that rich Vespene geyser straight away at the beginning of the game as a very, very quick third base. I believe it was his EVP. And using that extra gas so that they could have more minerals at their other bases and launch a ridiculously strong timing attack about 30 seconds before you would expect it on any other map. So the presence of that rich Vespene geyser could promote really, really quick tech paths if taken early. Now, I don't think we'd be seeing it in a PvT, because the Nexus would be a little bit too quick to take off. But if it goes into a much longer macro game where both players take 3+ bases, that extra gas would really suit Creator.Prime sort of upgrade-heavy tech style.
Very much so. And you also mentioned the... that does seem something that Snoot would do, to be perfectly honest. if I'm honest, that he would take that rich Vespene geyser. In fact, when we picked this map, and I mention this often, but I feel like a bit of a hipster when it comes to Atlantis Spaceship because we picked it before GSL and Playham did. I'm just saying, we're awesome. But... We speculated that something like that would eventually happen, so it's good to know that players are taking advantage of it. For now, though, pretty passive opening out of both these players, very economically greedy. We have command structures first for either. In fact, Creator going ahead and mining double gas right now, but his probe count is already soaring. His opponent, of course, will be pretty close on economy because he is adding in mules, but still, Creator being very diligent about chrono boosting out as many probes as is possible at this stage in the game.
And a second scout just being sent in from Creator there to make sure he can see the gases for as long as possible. So I think he got that second scout off just to make sure that Polt still was not mining gas. And as we can see, neither gas in the main base is yet taken from Polt. He's going to be going up to 4-rack. So it looks like we have a little bit of a return to the style that we saw in game number 1.
We did, but Creator is actually going to be able to pull off his style a little bit better in this game because of the fact that he decided to go Nexus first, even though it was Gateway and he pulled off of gas in game number 1 and put up the Nexus as quickly as possible afterwards. That's still a significant improvement in time, which means that Creator has about an additional 4 or 5 workers at this stage of the game than he did from game 1. And okay, we may be seeing something completely different. He's actually going for a third Nexus.
Wow.
Now, StarCraft made this very popular on maps like this, Daybreak and Antigua Shipyard, where he would actually go, and I don't know if we're going to see it, but I'm crossing my fingers that we will, that he actually goes, he went Gateway, Nexus, Nexus. Now, we saw Nexus, then Gateway, then Nexus, but I'm still hoping we're going to fall into that Startail parting style 8-gate pressure.
that could be really, really strong, especially if Polt doesn't scout it, but he does have a unit over there in the bottom right-hand corner of a map, and SCV going to be able to pop out and scout, and I wonder if this will trigger some sort of timing out of Polt. Of course, he will see the third base has gone down ridiculously early in this game, and he'll be thinking to himself he can either execute a timing on that, as the sentry's trying to stop the SCV from leaving. They do successfully do so, but not before the SCV gets a glimpse of that Nexus. Now, Polt's going to be able to do one of two things. He'll either prompt and go for a timing.
There it is, yeah.
Or he's going to sit back and try and take a third. And if he sits back and takes his third early in response to this, he could be hit really hard with this pressure that's coming out of Creator.
That's very true. It looks like it's just 7 gates for now, so a little bit lighter than his opponent. I'm sorry, not his opponent, but that StarTale does. But what this is designed to do is this is designed to kill a Terran player just as the first 2 medevacs are popping out, if they're going for a quicker medevac style. And Polt, so lucky, catches the pylon immediately. That's going to force another probe out here in a second. It does set back this attack by quite a bit. So this is designed to kill Terran players, though, before their medevacs pop up and before they have adequate defenses. Now, this is I like to describe it as a tech all-in. If this doesn't work, if a Terran player holds this off, then they're already on medevacs and upgrades. This time, though, Creator, is he just going to feign pressure? He does have a robotics facility being added, so he's either trying to cover his tracks and make sure that he has an out in case this doesn't work, but of course it'll hit a little bit weaker. I don't know, this is very interesting play out of Creator.
It looks like he changed his mind about where to attack, because at the end of the day, we mentioned, of course, that Polt could sit back and try and take a third in response, and that's exactly what he did, and Creator immediately went and put a forward pylon down, but Polt sniped it off very, very quickly, and he then made the decision to try and put a little bit of pressure against the natural as opposed to the third. He will be sending a couple zealots into the third shortly, just in case he is able to catch Polt off guard, but it looks like just where he's applying his pressure has changed very significantly based on that first pylon being sniped off. It'll be interesting to see how well this holds up, because we do have a huge engagement here, and there is no way Creator can stop this army if he wants to move in, because there's simply too many units, and that bunker down there as well. Decent force fields trapping a couple of units, but so much is left for Polt that I don't think Creator can push in at this time. Polt also needs to, of course, be careful to move out too far beyond the confines of the bunker, but it looks like he is feeling comfortable enough to do so, because Creator did split his units to force the third to lift off, but he, of course, didn't get the command center there, and Creator is now going to be pushed back.
Yeah, Creator forced
the sentries.
Oh, I know. Creator forced to think on his feet a little bit here, because as soon as his third did get scouted, he decided, okay, well, I'm just going to use 3 bases as a way to get up to Colossi and a gigantic army as quickly as possible. And he is effectively doing that. And on top of that, has effectively denied this command center for a very long time, whereas we can see he has almost complete saturation on his third. Yes, he did lose those very valuable sentries there, unfortunately, but this certainly became a good out for him, as he's now technologically on par with his opponent and moving up to that familiar double forge stage again. So sitting on 3 base economy with 68 workers sub 11 minutes means that he will be able to produce an enormous army very quickly on.
And it looks like Creator getting very slightly supply blocked there just now as a result of that forward pylon going down near Polt's base. All that prodding into the front of the natural expansion from Polt didn't really do Creator any favors, but what it did do, some people might be looking at that going, well, he just lost a couple of units, his army was clearly not big enough, but what it did do was force Polt to continuously produce unit after unit after unit, because he thought that perhaps the pressure was just going to continue to arrive. So in exchange for those sentries, which perhaps he shouldn't have blundered at the end there,
sure,
those couple of units bought Creator enough time to get up to this sort of tech now, and we do see another Colossi coming out. Extended Thermal is about 2/3 of the way done. Might not be out in time for this particular engagement from Polt, unless, though, he's pausing at the moment, so we might even have Extended Thermal Lance out in time, and if that happens, just like in Game 1, it looks like Polt might be missing a little bit of a timing.
Well, it looks like he may be waiting for +1 weapons and +1 armor to finish up here, but of course, I would imagine that Creator's, yeah, we can see by the build time there, is chrono boosting, though, so his is actually not going to be that far behind his opponent. As we can see, Creator has incredible vision of the map. Once again, has, I believe, three observers out there right now, one sitting over the army, the other one's going ahead and looking for conventional drop paths. And, well, believe it or not, actually, this little stim is actually going to make its way in. If he can pick off that robotics facility, that would be huge. At the same time, Polt is just waiting for some units to go back so he can continue to stim into the third. He does so, but he just wants to pull units away so that robo falls, and it does.
Oh dear, that's an excellent pick off there from Polt. The Robo goes down, and look at this, backing away from the engagement at the third as well. I really like that decision from him. He wanted to keep his armies together. He knew that there were Colossi out on the field. He had no Vikings, now starting to double create them as well. So we're going to be seeing an awful lot of Viking production coming out of Polt, and he just wants to wait until he's just that little bit more ready for this particular engagement. However, we do have, excellent against Bio, of course, Psionic Storm capable High Templar going to be popping out soon. Has Psi Storm finished No, not quite yet, so it's still about 30 seconds away, but it will be ready in time for the next engagement.
That's right. So, and Polt's just kind of gathering up his forces, moving forward with a big drop on the left-hand side. But Creator, in typical Creator fashion, is well prepared for any sort of drop and harassment. If we can take a look at the energy on these medevacs, it doesn't look like a feedback is going to kill them, so the Templar will only temporarily set this back. But that's plenty enough forces there to go ahead and ward away this drop.
And look at this, moving the forces already into position. The High Templar needs to move in front and feed back a medevac because Polt is able to get a position out in the back of the base. Oh no, if he drops most of these units before the army gets there, Polt will have maximum amount of damage because those units weren't dropped on top of those Zealots, and it looks like the Bio army able to kite the Zealots back now. Polt may end up winning this engagement just because the presence of medevacs is just going to be able to do so much damage by these Marauders, and it looks like the Stalkers are absolutely melting. A huge round of Zealots should just about clean this up, but the Stalkers are dead behind them, which means that Creator can't get any damage done while they're being kited. Polt is doing so much damage with the drop, but we have a massive engagement over here near the third base. Oh no, Storming almost killing most of his Zealots there, trying to ward Polt back. Creator successfully stopping Polt from moving into the third base, but the drop in the main is still going on.
That's right. It finally is going to get cleaned up, but a lot of units did go down there for Creator. Fortunately for him, he didn't lose that much in the way of economy, and Polt was trying to establish a fourth behind this as well. When all is said and done, there's a 5-worker deficit for Creator.Prime at the moment, which is a little bit inconsequential at this stage in the game. It's going to be a question of how many he wants to go up to once he establishes this fourth base. But the real kicker is that he didn't lose any of his Colossi. The High Templar are still out there on the field, but there's not a lot of anti-air sitting around, which means that Polt may have the ability to continue to pick apart his opponent with drops afterwards. The real thing, though, is that 2-2 upgrades just finished up for Polt. Even though he did start his well before his opponent, Creator was actually diligently chrono boosting even during that entire engagement, which means he's already well into 3-3 upgrades at the moment.
And that's going to be really significant come the later stages of this game. A couple of things to point out there as well is that the Observer was on hand to see the fourth base go down for Polt, so Creator knew exactly when that fourth base went down. But one thing I do have to say, he had units in his base to prepare for that drop, which was fantastic, but he needed to move them in position, even for dropships. If you were dropping those units one by one, as dropships do, on top of Zealots, you do about 1/10 of the damage you otherwise would have. A dropship almost getting picked off there, but not quite. So Creator really needed just to move his units with the medevacs a little bit, and because he failed to do that, Polt was able just to get an awful lot of purchase with that drop.
Yes, he was, and we'll see if Creator can defend round 2. That's coming in a second. 4 more medevacs making their way out. No further warpins down for Creators. He is almost maxed. In fact, pulling a couple of Stalkers off the line now with Blink in order to clean this up. We have massive army movements on the field right now. Creator moving through the middle of the map. Polt was considering swinging over to the third, but simply doesn't have the flexibility to do so right now. But a storm actually hits most of the units for Polt. Polt is forced to run away. He's going to continue to stim up and move into the third at the same time.
And this could potentially be huge for Polt. The Vikings, if he wanted to, could even do a bit of harassment against the third. We also have another engagement going on the left-hand side. It looks like Polt is going to be able to win this one, but getting chased away on the left. Excellent storms coming out of Creator. This is just beautiful play coming out of him. Reminds me of parsing-style storms against MKP, Kevin.
Yeah,
this is just
kidding.
beautiful to watch. And Polt actually getting pushed back on both fronts simultaneously, so excellent multitasking as well from our Protoss.
It's going to be very difficult for Polt to get something done from here on out. He really needs to make a big stand behind Ghosts, of which he has none on the field right now. He finishes Ghost Academy. I did see it before, but unfortunately does not have any Ghosts coming out. We do have that late game Dark Shrine being put down for Creator as well. Certainly becomes an annoyance and very good at positioning and pulling units apart as you move on. 3-3 did finish up now for Creator, and this is go time for him. I mean, he has established his fourth base. He's going to be putting all of the gas geysers down. Even the Rich Vespian geyser could establish a fifth base at the same time if he wants, which we see that's what Polt is doing. But Creator's at the point now where he really wants to start inflicting damage, and I think he has the ability to do so.
Yeah, this Death Ball is just absolutely huge. Mobius Reactor not even halfway done yet, I believe. And that's going to mean that these ghosts will be popping out with less energy, but he has to create them. There is no choice. Polt has to get these ghosts out as quickly as possible for those EMPs, but so many Zealots in this engagement, it's going to be absolutely horrific. Excellent Storm there as well, killing a couple of Zealots actually towards the end, but just stopping the Bio Army from moving back. Another Storm able to kill off most of the Bio, but the last Colossus, crucially, did just pop down, and there are so many medevacs here that Polt's not going to be running out of energy anytime soon, and because of that, he's able to live to fight another day this time around, but his army is significantly weaker now.
Yeah, if I'm honest, that wasn't the world's best engagement from Creator there. He certainly could have handled that quite a bit better, but...
the Colossi in particular.
Yes. That being said, though, he's still in a position of strength, but now his opponent has 3-3. He has those ghosts, as you mentioned before, and this looks significantly worse than it did before.
Has Creator seen this space over here on the left-hand side, I wonder? Because his army was posturing around for the quiet, and he has not.
No.
That could potentially be huge, because he could have just sat back and maybe sniped it off before heading home, but he doesn't know that base is there. And all this fantastic map vision that we've seen throughout this game from Creator, you notice that there were observers looking out for those drops earlier on in the game and just flying out around the map. It's not here anymore. Creator hasn't actually used that in the late game, which is why Polt's drops have been able to get through, which is why that 5th base there hasn't been scouted.
Well, looks like Creator intends to take his own 5th base here in just a second, and has 400 resources. There it goes. So another Nexus making its way down. A few charge lots trying to come back through and do some more damage. Worker kills have been incredibly consistent throughout this entire game, though. Yeah, I'm sorry, those Zealots aren't going anywhere. Don't even try to pull those back. Might as well inflict whatever damage you can. 68 workers to 62 at the moment. The superior economy does go to Polt, though, because he is a little bit better distributed, and, of course, has mules down on top of that. So, for now, though, 5th Nexus coming up for Creator. He's moving into +2 shields. You've got to upgrade something if you're Creator.
And crucially, a little bit different from the previous game we saw, actually, when Creator moved away from Colossi. He's now getting 3 of them at once, which is an interesting decision because he knew that Polt still had a decent number of Vikings on the field at the end of that last engagement, and he was making more and more until just a moment ago where he started focusing on Ghosts. So Polt is going to have a decent number of Vikings by the time the next major engagement occurs. I wonder if that's going to make a difference because Creator is just chrono boosting those Colossi like there's no tomorrow. So he really needs to hit this army hard and fast, straight down the middle if he wants to win that last engagement, because if the Vikings get a couple of pot shots off, Creator's army could melt, to be frank, to a couple of EMPs, so he needs to be very, very careful.
This is still an incredibly impressive game out of both players, though. I mean, Creator making a little bit of a mistake with his army positioning in that big engagement when he had the advantage, but now a big drop coming out of Polt. Really, this is the only base that hasn't been taken on the map. Control of it temporarily is Creator's because he has the unit sitting there. Had Observer thinking it's lucky stars that it was able to survive for just long enough there. Oh, we have a big drop coming in. This may be able to take out the base over towards the top left-hand corner of the map. At the same time, though, looks like Creator trying to get whatever damage he can done with his units up at the front.
I'd like to see a couple more force fields out of Creator, actually, with the main army to try and block Polt's army from just defending his 4th, really, but it looks like the 5th is finally going to get scouted and taken out. A lot of Zealots warping in, but the Colossi are out in the front because the Zealots are in the back, and this is what I was talking about. These Vikings getting so much purchase on this army, but look at the number of Zealots. They're actually heading straight into Ghost at the moment because there just aren't enough Marauders to tank it all. Absolutely incredible stuff, but do we have detection? No Observer in the area, which means that Polt is going to be able to survive the winner of that engagement. That is absolutely insane, and oh my goodness.
Polt was the winner of that engagement. Creator was able to keep his base alive. These Dark Templar have 9 kills between them. So Creator actually sitting on a base advantage at the moment, and he actually killed an additional 12 or 13 workers there. So he's up by 15 overall, and there are no mules on the field. So Creator actually has a better ability to reproduce this army, but Polt does have the better standing army at the moment by far.
There's no damage done to the 5th base there, and we can see one of the gases being retaken. That tells me that perhaps, because unfortunately we just missed a little bit of that, but it looks like Polt wasn't microing that particular drop, and he just sent them in, and the gas geyser got taken out. That was huge, because really he should have taken out the Nexus and been on even bases as well. So now we're going to have an absolutely massive engagement. If Creator can hold on to this 5th base, that's going to be absolutely massive, but this onslaught from Polt is huge.
Yes, it is, and now the Vikings are in position. These Colossi are not going to last long at all, and EMPs are raining down fire upon everything. The Archon's not even lasting all that long. No storms available, and bye-bye 5th base.
Those EMPs were absolutely beautiful, and Polt using the positioning of that little chasm with his Vikings there just to do so much damage to the Colossi. Just beautiful engagement, but now he has an awful lot of Colossi and not much in the way of everything else, so he needs to be a little bit careful because nice storm. A couple of Zealots actually would just rip this army apart provided he has enough of them with charge, and it looks like, though, Creator actually not going to be able to sit back long enough to get those Warpins in.
No.
And the rest of his army is actually just about to disintegrate, so he's going to be giving the GG, and Polt takes the lead.